Hey everyone. I always see Beverly waving. It lets me know you can hear me. I see Renee. I see Donna. I'm going to do something a little different. Linda from Florida. So, those of you watching later, I always ask everyone to let me know in the chat where they're from. And if you're new to Zoom, on the bottom of this Zoom screen, you'll see a little bubble that says chat. If you click that, the chat will come up to your right, and that's how you can talk to me. We've got Colorado Springs, we've got California and Kansas, more Florida, more California, New York, Georgia, Castle Pine. I'm assuming that's in Colorado, Atlanta, Columbus, Washington, Virginia, New Hampshire. You guys are so awesome. It's Sunday and it's like almost summer and you all are still hanging out with me on a Sunday. How lucky am I? I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. I usually save this for the end. If you're here and you usually have your video off, which I totally understand, you don't want to see anyone to see you go into the bathroom or whatever. If you would turn your camera on for just a moment, I would love to take a look through the gallery and see your smiling faces. So I'm going to start scrolling through. Oh, this is so exciting. I feel like, do you remember that, was it Romper Room? Where she used to say, I see, like all the kids you were right. Those of us who are like over 50 know what I'm talking about. And I saw some of you nodding your head, so I know you watched Romper Room. So I see Sherry and Carrie and Lynn and Kathy and Christine and Terry. I'm not going to be able to get everybody, but I'm going to try. Brenda, and I think I see Kim and Jackie and Tammy and Donna and Renee and Cherry and Donna and Beverly. Who else do I see? Nancy and Newbie and Leona. Hey, Leona, what up? She lives in Colorado Springs. Jennifer in Atlanta. Laura, Margaret, Diane. I'm having so much fun. Everyone on YouTube's going to hate me. Don't care. Tanisha, how are you? Who's with you, Tanisha? Oh, the screen is changing on me. And I've got Marilee and Mary. Hey, Mary, how are you? Karen, it's so weird to see my friends in Colorado Springs, so I've not been able to see in person forever. And then the cameras go off, so I'll stop. That was my eternal symbol from you that you're done and you want me to start cooking. So hello, everybody. So with that, my name's J.L. Fields, and I have been teaching Sunday cooking classes, vegan cooking classes for free right here on Zoom as a way to respond to the pandemic and most of us having to stay home. And a lot of you have stuck with me through this whole process. If you're new to me and what's going on here, I live in Colorado Springs. I am a cookbook author, and those of you who've been hanging around for a few weeks, I've got really good news for you. Well, I've got good news and bad news, but it all connects to good news. So the bad news is I'm actually in a lot of pain. My neck and my arm are completely screwed up. And it's because I'm basically been at my computer 15 hours a day. I mean, I'm like a hot mess. I went to see my massage therapist yesterday with a mask on. And so anyway, I hope I'm as peppy as you usually expect from me, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm in a lot of pain. But having said that, the reason I'm in a lot of pain is because I've been trying to get a cookbook done, and it looks like I'm gonna meet my deadline and get it turned in tomorrow. So that was my very long way of letting those of you who don't know me know I write cookbooks. And my 7th cookbook is coming out in July, Vegan Baking for Beginners. And this new one, I can't tell you what it's called yet, but it'll be out this fall. So anyway, I teach cooking classes in Colorado Springs, and then I had to stop teaching cooking classes in Colorado Springs because the pandemic. So here we are every Sunday, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and we've been doing all kinds of classes, and now the classes are kind of been driven by you. The last couple of topics were based on a survey that you all filled out. So today the topic is grains. And a couple things. Jeff from Local Relic, who'd been popping in with some beer and wine suggestions, actually really wanted to come in today. And they have a new wine bar as well at the Carter Payne. The Carter Payne is a historic African-American church that Jeff and his wife Melissa have turned into a kind of food and community hall. So now they have Local Relic Artisan Ale, they have Crusade, which is their new wine bar, and then they have 2 food concepts, Immersed Cuisine and BFD, Breakfast for Dinner. Anyway, he got so busy he couldn't be here, but in his honor, I'm having a little beverage with my cooking today. This is a barrel-aged sour black provincial ale, and I'm here to tell you it's really funky and kind of weird. Look how dark it is, but it's an ale and it's sour, and I'm sort of loving it, but it's not one of those things you'd like drink. Like I'm sipping. I'm going to be sipping. Okay, so that's what I'm drinking in case anyone cares. Cheers to anybody who's joining me. We have people who join in with wine, beer, kombucha, sparkling water, coffee, tea. So today it's all about grains. we are doing 3 recipes. Let me drop those in the chat room. And for those of you watching later on YouTube, if I have permission to share the recipe, they will be on the web page that's connected to the video. And I obviously have permission to share 2 recipes because they're mine. And these both come from Fast and Easy Vegan. I know some of you have that cookbook. So I'm dropping in the tabbouleh recipe and I'm dropping in the red risotto, but we also are doing a recipe that I can't give you. I did share the ingredients in the newsletter, but I don't have permission to share it because it's copyrighted, but it's my friend Tracy McQuarter. She and her mom, I used to have a radio show. Did you guys know that? I had a radio program here in Colorado Springs on the station. It's a nonprofit radio station called KCMJ, and it was about bringing power to community. And it was called Easy Vegan. And I had it for a couple of years. And Tracy and her mother Mary were guests on one of my shows. And anyway, we're doing a recipe from Ageless Vegan. And with Tracy's permission, I actually invited her to see if she wanted to come on today, but she's a little busy because she's got a lot going on. If you're on my newsletter, you know that she started a project called 10,000 Black Women Project. And she's trying to, she's been working for years trying to empower communities to take control of their health. And so this is something she's been working on. I linked to it in the newsletter. I'll link to it on this website. But we're going to do one of her recipes from this book, Ageless Vegan. And it is going to be the farro with shiitake mushrooms. So I will talk it through you. For those of you who went to the website, Facebook, Meetup, or got my newsletter, I gave you all the ingredients for it. So we'll talk through it together today. We're also gonna make a red risotto and we're gonna make a tabbouleh. I intentionally chose 3 very different kinds of grain recipes because I wanna show you how differently grains can cook. But more importantly, it's not just about cooking the grains. For some of you, you are new to cooking and eating vegan, and I want you to understand how grains can work into your healthy lifestyle. And the reason I say that like that is because I just started looking for, I was like, I had a measuring cup out earlier. I'll find it, it's fine. Is because, you know, we kind of live in this no carb, low carb nation. And I'm here to tell you that there are good carbs and they're good for you and they're important for your nutrition and they're delicious. And if you're trying to lose weight and you're not giving yourself any carbs, there's a good chance it's not going to stay off in 5 or 10 years. And so I like to have people sort of approach food from a healthy, sustainable perspective. So that's why I wanted to show you a different variety of my neighbors are going to have a baby. And so they've been doing I'm in a condo. So I think they're renovating. And anyway, I just heard that and thought someone was pounding through my wall. I'm fine. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to start a couple of things and explain to you as we go what we're doing. Let me see, please comment on gluten-free as well. Not all are gluten-free. Well, Carol, I appreciate your request for that. I'm not an expert on gluten-free. So I'll do the best I can, but it's definitely the intention with putting this together. I didn't really put an eye toward gluten-free. Apologize for that, but I just don't really do allergen-free cooking. If somebody else knows, I'd love to, you can feel free to jump in. That would be great. Okay, so let me tell you, first I'm gonna show you Bulgur wheat. We're gonna talk about a little bit in a moment, but it's like a hard, almost like a groat, but you actually don't have to cook bulgur. You can. It's kind of a running joke in the community, the Instant Pot and pressure cooking community, because everybody's like, how long do I pressure cook bulgur? And it's like basically the minute water touches, it's cooked. Not really true. It depends on it. This is a red bulgur, so it's a longer cooking one, but I am not going to cook the bulgur today. I am going to put boiling water over the bulgur and let it sit for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to turn it into a tabbouleh. So one of the reasons, so I've just got this little tea kettle here. So I'm just going to get this going so that do any of you watch that Jamie Oliver show on Tastemakers? I watch it on YouTube TV. It's like 15-minute meals. And one of the ways he's able to do 15-minute meals all the time is because he always has, he's in the UK. And so, you know, electric tea kettles in the UK are as ubiquitous as coffee makers are in the US. And so he always has his tea kettle going, and he'll even do rice where he'll just take a hot, hot water from the tea kettle, put it on the rice and cover it, set it off to the side and cook for 15 minutes doing all the other things. And then the grains are done, which I think is so cool. So that's kind of one of the reasons I was doing the bulgur. Okay. So I'm going to show you what that looks like as soon as this is boiling. I did want to find, there's my measuring cup. So the other thing we're going to make today is Tracy's recipe for farro with mushrooms. And the way we're going to cook the farro, so if you're cooking along today, we're going to bring the water to a boil. So I'm actually just going to turn the stove on right now. And those of you who know me know it's really weird for me to actually use my stove. I'm going to do it on a really high heat. I'm halving this recipe. I'm about to make 3 grain recipes in a home with 2 people. So I don't need to go too overboard because I don't want to waste the food. So I'm actually having this recipe. So the tea kettle, did you see how quickly that water came up? That's why I love having an electric tea kettle. I want 2 cups of this boiling water. I'm just going to pour over this bulgur. And I'm actually going to start with 1, and then I'm going to check on it because I'm only doing a 1/4 cup of the bulgur. So I'm actually going to put a little cover over it. Do you guys have these things that kind of stick to a lid? I absolutely love it. Like when you go like this, and then it just sort of does a suction thing. So I'm going to set this over here for a brief moment. And I want to get, where am I going to set it so that I don't forget what I'm doing? And I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. I have a lot of things I want to time today. So I'm going to let the bulgur sit in the hot water. And I'm going to get the risotto going now because I am going to pressure cook that. And you all know, why do I want to get that going, even though I'm only going to cook it for 7 minutes? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Preheating it, exactly. So I'm going to, and actually in this case, I'm actually not going to do an advanced step. So I'm going to be using the Melfi cooker that's behind me because I have a new toy I'm going to show you today. And I blame someone from my vegan cooking group. Oh, I should drop you a link to that. So I have a group on Facebook. I used to have a bunch of groups on Facebook, and you guys, it became way too much for me to manage. So I turned it into one called Vegan Cooking with JL. And I am going to give you the link here right now. So someone in the group this week asked about, I think it was the group, asked about Ninja's new air fryer toaster oven combo. And I didn't know about it, but I have been a consultant with Ninja for a while. I help them with their Ninja Foodie as a chef consultant. And they had shown us a prototype of this thing like a year or so ago. And I was like, are they really going to do that? So anyway, this woman mentioned it in our class, or I mean, on the group. And I basically went over to the Ninja website and saw it, and I ordered it. I have a problem. Okay. I have a problem. I love appliances. So that's how I'm going to broil today. But anyway, we're going to start with the risotto. So risotto, as you know, is very not vegan and can be very, very labor intensive. Lots of stirring going on when you got your cream and your butter going. So I love risotto. And this is from my book, Fast and Easy Vegan. Oh, I'll drop that link. I like risotto in an Instant Pot or a multi-cooker because, oh, I wanted to drop Tracy's link. I want to make sure you know this. I wrote this here too. Here's the link to Tracy's book. This is not an affiliate link. I'm not dropping that link to make money off of Tracy McCurder's hard work. I want you to order her book because she's amazing. And her first book, By Any Greens Necessary, was one of my first cookbooks. Highly recommended. It is timeless. It's wonderful. And so this book or recipe we're about to do is from Fast and Easy Vegan, and it's the red risotto. And so the red risotto is simply, you can only do so many of the same recipes over and over again. You have to start getting creative. So I decided to kind of make it like a pasta style risotto. So having marinara sauce. And I just happened to, I wasn't even thinking about it. I had some cherry tomatoes that was use it or lose it time this week. So a couple of days ago, I just made a really quick marinara sauce. I put a bunch of cherry tomatoes in the Instant Pot with my small one, the 3-quart, with a pinch of salt and a little minced garlic. And then you guys are going to think I'm weird, and I am a little weird, but I did do a marinade for some tofu earlier or on the same day. and it wasn't a long marinade. It was just like an hour or so, and it was red wine vinegar and soy sauce. I poured that into this when I was done, and then I just mashed all the potatoes together, and it just or tomatoes, and it just became this really umami rich sauce. Dave used it for our Friday night pizza, which was delicious. He made a potato pizza on Friday night, and I'm going to use it today for our red risotto. But anyway, I'm taking way too long to tell you that to make risotto in that pot, the reason it's so amazing is you don't have to keep stirring it, and we aren't going to be using any form of vegan butter or any kind of cream. So it's really just going to be 1 cup of arborio rice, which looks like a plump, short grain white rice. And that's what risotto is made from. It's from arborio rice. So I'm going to put this in the pot. And then I have 3 cups of veggie broth, and you all know that I usually use a bouillon powder so that I can save a little money because I use vegetable broth all the time. And then I just want to double check my recipe, but I'm pretty sure what I'm about to tell you is going to be true. Is let's see, cover tightly. Oh yes. Okay. So when I am making risotto or any kind of rice, when I'm using tomatoes, I don't want to stir the tomatoes into the pot. There's a reason, and some of you who took, oh, thanks for the nail polish compliment. I'm going to show you in a minute. They're really fun. Why do I not stir when I put tomatoes or tomato sauce in my Instant Pot or multi-cooker? Scorching, exactly, because, oh, my farro the water's boiling, so I'm going to put my farro. I rinsed it. One of the questions that comes up, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, is do you need to rinse your grains? I don't always rinse my grains, but when I went to measure these out today, from the bag, Bob's Red Mill, they were so dusty that I was like, that was just begging to be rinsed. Do you know what I mean? But I don't do it all the time. So I'm going to put the farro in to the boiling water over here, and I'm just going to give it a quick stir. They're kind of clumpy because I rinsed them. And then I'm going to bring this back up to a boil. I think I'll put a little pinch of salt in, just a pinch, because there's going to be some other flavor coming into this, and I've already used that. So let me just do a quick pinch of salt, and it's actually already coming back up to a boil. I know you can't see it. I'm always trying to, there we go. All right, so coming back up to a boil. So now what I want to do is cover this, reduce the heat so it does a low simmer. So I think I'm going to kind of go down to like about, you don't need to look at my belly. Oh, I forgot to show you my t-shirt. I'm going to go down to like medium, low, and see what happens. So here's one of the things you might not know about grains. So when you're cooking grains, a lot of times you'll see a range of water to use, especially when it's stovetop. It gets a little bit more specific when you are with your Instant Pot. Actually, I'm just going to pour this in right now. So this is my marinara sauce because I want to get this going. I'm going to cook the risotto for, oh man, this is going to be so good. 7 minutes, high pressure. Did not stir because the sugars in the tomato can scorch. So we're doing pressure cook. I'm going to do this on high pressure. If Linda's on today, she has one of these pots she won last week for 7 minutes. And I want it to do a natural release. So now I'm done. I am, okay, I need to do my timer for my farro. See, once everything starts cooking, I can actually talk to you. Okay, so I just got a phone call on my watch. I had to deny that. So sorry, beauty bar. Speaking of beauty bar, let me show you my nails. Now, I'm going to cook these I'm going to start at 20 minutes because that's what Tracy says to do in the book. I live at 6,200 feet. 20 minutes might not be enough because of elevation. So we'll see. So for those of you, my fellow Coloradans, we might have to cook longer than 20 minutes. We'll see what happens. So first, let's talk about the fingernails. They're little avocados, you guys. How sweet are these? Vegan nail polish. Okay, I'm sorry. I just couldn't resist. I have little avocados on my fingers. Okay, so back to the water and the grains. When you are cooking grains on the stovetop, I tend to start with the lowest amount of water recommended, and then I just keep an eye on it. And then when it starts to cook down, I will test it to see, is it fork tender yet? Is it starting to, does it feel like it has doneness? If it doesn't, I add more water. And that's kind of how I keep the ratio of water to grain working. And so I just keep making sure there's enough liquid in there for it to cook. Now, obviously some grains we cook, we want them to be like the water is absorbed, it came out perfect. There are other grains where that's not an issue. For instance, wheat berries. I basically got all my grains out of my pantry today to show you. So wheat berries, which look a little bit like a berry, look a little bit like a rice, they end up being very chewy. You can almost think of it as sort of like an al dente pasta, but you can cook these in a lot of liquid and then you just rinse them and drain them when you're done. I use these for salads. And so I just rinse them and drain them in cold water. And then I either toss them immediately in a salad or I'll store it for a couple of days. A cooked grain, I usually will only keep 3 to 5 days in my refrigerator. Beans are also 3 to 5. I mean, greens have a little bit longer, but I'd rather just make a small amount and not have to worry about it. But with the farro, if we have too much liquid with the farro, we can totally rinse and drain that too. And you can do that with rice, but as you know, we want a fluffy rice, we want fluffy quinoa, we want fluffy millet. And so those are grains that you really want to pay attention to the amount of liquid to make sure you have enough, but not too much. So that's just kind of one tip when it comes to doing stovetop. Now I use pressure cooking, like I'm doing this farro right now for you all on the stovetop because I know not everyone has a pressure cooker or a multi-cooker, but I'm here to tell you, I never cook grains on the stovetop because I have an Instant Pot, multi-cooker, my Melfi, I have pressure cookers because they cook up quicker. Sort of in the same way that beans cook up quicker. Now there's true, you still have to come up to pressure, cook at pressure and natural release, but you're not checking it all the time. Is there enough water? So in a good cookbook that comes to, oh, my bulgur's doing well. I'm glad I only went with 1 cup. So I also wrote vegan pressure cooking and I have a chart in here and you can find lots of charts online that will give you ratios for grains and liquid. So like okay. So like millet, all of these grains are by the 1 cup. And so for millet, I would use 1 cup millet to 2 cups liquid. And when I put that in the pressure cooker and cook it for 10 minutes or the multi-cooker, it comes out perfectly done. And so Jill Newsonow has great charts in her book as well. Quinoa, I do 1 cup to 1.5. So the point is when you're wanting to pressure cook or use a multi-cooker like an Instant Pot or a Melfi or a Zavor, you want to look at the charts to make sure you're using the right ratio so that you don't use too much liquid. I'm going to stop for a minute. Yeah, somebody asked, let me stop for a minute and answer a few questions. So someone asked about the 3 cups of water. I did 3 cups of vegetable broth to arborio rice, but I also added that cup of marinara sauce. So if I were making risotto that wasn't a red risotto, I would have used 4 cups of liquid. So that was one question. Oh, someone asked about the vegan nail color. I love that we just talk about whatever we want to talk about in these classes. They make me so happy. It's called the gel bottle or something like that. It's like gelish, like the shellac, but it's a vegan one. The gel ink, I don't know, GEL, but the is the first part of it. I go to Beauty Bar in Colorado Springs. So, oh, someone's asking about how to spell arborio rice, ARBORIO, arborio. But if you Google risotto, it's going to probably come up and tell you that it's arborio. So I'm getting a little. I'm just keeping an eye on my farro. I'm supposed to leave it alone. See, I'm terrible. This is why I pressure cook. I can't leave it alone. But it's doing things on the stove, and I never use my stovetop. It's so weird. I want to jump ahead to one step. And I guess I'll show you this thing that I just bought. I want to take care of one of the steps that we're going to do with the farro. So I love this recipe from Tracy with the farro because she's doing a mushroom. And some of you who have my book Vegan Pressure Cooking know that I have a mushroom and brown rice recipe. I love adding things to grains because I think a lot of times people think, well, grains are boring and First off, they're not, yeah, but it's what you do with them, right? So if you just ate a bowl of brown rice, it'd just be a bowl of brown rice and there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. But if you just add a little oomph to it, whether it's texture through vegetables or umami through mushrooms, you're just adding some flavors that make it a little bit more complex and a little bit more exciting. And so Tracy's step is to in a bowl, have some chopped shiitakes that drizzle a little olive oil over it. If you don't use added oils, you could just put a little vegetable broth over it with a little salt. If you don't use salt, don't use salt. And so I used a little olive oil and I used a couple pinches of kosher salt. So I've just been having it sit here right on this pan. And as I told you in my newsletter, I don't have shiitake mushrooms. On Sundays, I use whatever's left because I'm getting my produce tomorrow. So I'm just using these little button mushrooms and they just look wonderful and they've started to sweat just from the salt and the oil on it. So now I'm going to broil them. So I guess I should show you this toy of mine. So this thing is, let me move all this stuff out of the way so you can show it. This is not a class about this air fryer. You don't need it, but I know a lot of you are as obsessed with appliances as I am. So here's what's cool about this thing, you guys. It actually folds up so that it doesn't take up space in your kitchen. So this is this is an air fryer toaster oven that stores right here. And then you just pull it down when you want to use it. So that's why I got it. So it has a broil function. So I'm going to put this in to broil, and she called for it to broil for about 5 minutes. So I'm going to give that a go and we'll see what happens. But why do you think she wanted us to broil the mushrooms before we added it to the farro? Tell me. More flavor and umami. That's exactly right. So we had a whole class on umami. If you missed it, go to my YouTube channel or go back to the newsletter because I have a link to that. And umami brings out meatiness and turns things from ordinary to extraordinary. And so just by broiling these mushrooms with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, it's just going to pop with flavor. And then she has us adding some raw celery. So now imagine the texture. We've got a chewy farro. We've got some roasted mushrooms. We've got the crunch and crisp of some celery, and then some nice soft chopped chives. So that's what's going to happen in this recipe when the farro is done and when the mushrooms are roasted. I'm just helping my pot along a little bit. So I see that there are some questions. Someone asked about, let's see. I saw a question. Oh, somebody's asking about the bouillon. So I'm going back, and sorry if you're watching on YouTube later, this is live on Zoom, and so we're having a chat. So I'm still working off of this bag from Whole Foods. I want you to notice the bag, you guys. I buy it in bulk. You can go to the spice section in the bulk aisle and just scoop in the amount of broth that you want. So it's such a great way to save money. It's such a great way to try different kinds of broth. And that way, instead of buying boxes of veggie broth, and listen, I make my own vegetable broth, of course, but I don't always have it around, and I can add something really quickly. The risotto just came up to pressure, so it's going to cook for 7 minutes. So I saw that question. Oh, someone wanted to know the newsletter. I have that link. One moment, please. And then someone is saying that you can't cut and paste and the recipes from here. Yeah, you're right. I don't know why Zoom does that. I can't cut and paste outside of that chat either. But I'm going to have the recipes on my website when I post the video up for this class. Okay. So, so Linda says your Whole Foods doesn't have a spice bulk section. So you might need to go to a different store for that. Oh, there was other types that I've used. Some of you have ordered it. So Mossel, it's an Australian company, and I'll show you what it looks like. I absolutely love it. This is a chicken style. It's so funny. In the book that I'm writing, I wrote beef style broth for a recipe, and my editor, I think she just only saw beef. And so in the comments, she just put all these question marks. And I was like, girl, have we not met yet? I would not use beef. But anyway, so this is what it looks like. The reason I love these broths and powders is because I can use just a couple of teaspoons. Usually I do 1 teaspoon per cup of water to turn it into broth. And it just lets me flavor it. But notice this is also salt reduced. I rarely will add salt while I'm cooking because I'm using so many other types of flavor that I want to see how the food is going to taste first. And then if it needs a little pinch of something, maybe it's just soy sauce that it needs. I'm going to continue to answer questions, but I forgot to tell you. So today's t-shirt is Be One Less Person Hurting Animals. And that's from the store, online store is called The Compassionate Closet. And oh, good, someone's giving you guys technical. So there's the link to this. So what we've got going on right now is we're cooking farro on the stovetop. We're broiling mushrooms to go with the farro. We have risotto cooking in on pressure in the Melty multi-cooker. And then we've got some bulgur that's just hanging out in some hot water. I did take a peek, and it's starting to absorb it up. So tabbouleh, if you guys are not familiar with tabbouleh, if you've gone to Middle Eastern restaurants and sometimes Greek restaurants will have tabbouleh, which is basically cooked bulgur that's tossed with parsley and tomatoes and lemon juice. And so that's what I'm going to do with this bulgur when it's done. So I wanted to show you some other grains. Let me just, I've been vegan for over 2 years and terrible at eating grains. Oh, Sherry, thank you for that. I hope that this is helping you. So I want to talk a little bit about how I work grains into my, what I consider a pretty healthy, balanced vegan diet. I always think about grains, you guys, every day. And the reason is, let's see if I can find it. Oh, yay, I found it. Ooh, this is exciting. This broil function is for real, you guys. Hold on, I'm gonna get back to that in a minute. I wanna show you. So, you know, it's called, oh, it smells so meaty in here. Oh my gosh, I'm too excited for words. Look at this. Can you hear that too? Isn't that amazing? It's called air broil. That's the function. And anyway, it's working. Yay. So, so we're broiling. Oh, I know what I wanted to show you. I see how easily I get distracted. I'm like, shiny penny, shiny penny. So let's see. I want to show you something. So some of you may or may not know the very first book that I was part of as a co-author. Okay, cool. What happened? Oh, that's supposed to be my farro. I swear I'm going to get to this. I just want to taste the farro, see how it's doing. I think it's going to need probably at least 5 more minutes simply because of my elevation, but we'll see. Actually, no. Is anybody else cooking farro with me right now? Someone just wrote the funniest thing and said that my, well, you guys probably see it, but said my pot holder matches my outfit. It's really true. These are what I call my party pants. Aren't they fun? I think everyone should have a pair of party pants. I have party shorts, party skirt, party pants. And people know when I put them on, they're like, she came to party. And I came to party with you guys today. So I have party pants on. I think I got them at Target for $10. Huh. Fashion icon, right? Yay. Okay, so back to my farro. Oh, by the way, is anybody else cooking the farro right now? Just curious. It doesn't sound like it. I'm gonna give my farro 5 more minutes, but honestly, I think it's kind of done. Actually, I'm just gonna let it go until my risotto goes off. Okay, so back to, I co-authored the book Vegan for Her with Jenny Messina. And Jenny Messina did the heavy lifting. She's the nutritionist and the RD, and it's a nutrition book for vegan women and plant-based women. And I did the recipes in the back, 50 recipes. But part of the book was the plant plate. And I keep this to this day. I've been vegan for 10 years. I use this in all of my fundamentals cooking classes here in Colorado Springs. And whether men or women, because the nutrition recommendations don't change based on that. But it's a great reminder of what a balanced vegan diet is. And so we're eating vegetables, we're eating fruits, we're eating grains, we're eating beans and legumes, and we're eating nuts and seeds. Anything else you can buy, like Beyond Burger, my husband made meatloaf last night. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I was all whiny upstairs working on the book. Oh, my neck hurts. I have a deadline. Wham, wham, wham. And then he brings up this plate of amazing potatoes and vegan meatloaf. And I'm like, all right, it's either, actually, I was gonna say I should quit complaining, but I feel like I need to keep complaining because I'm eating very well right now. But anyway, the point is you don't need Beyond Beef to eat a vegan diet, but you can absolutely have it. We sure do. But the 5 vegan food groups are pretty simple. And our recommendations are that you eat at least 5 servings, but more is fine and encouraged, of vegetables, at least 3 servings of fruit. And as you know, last week when we talked about breakfast, I told you that basically I get all my fruits in the morning with my breakfast. We encourage 1 to 2 servings of nuts and seeds. So that might look like a tablespoon of flaxseed on my breakfast in the morning, maybe a tablespoon or 2 of peanut butter or almond butter with my frozen bananas when I whip it up in the food processor to make nice cream. And that's a great way to get my nuts or seeds. And then legumes, we say 3 or more. And by legumes, we need beans, we need lentils, we need tofu, tempeh. And so I'm always thinking about that during the day. And I always think about getting at least 1 serving of soy a day because I'm 54 years old. I'll be 55 soon. I'm actually closer to 55 now than 54. And I have been in menopause for a couple of years. And so I continue to make sure I prioritize soy because I have not had many hot flashes or things like that. It's one of the things that Jenny mentions. And then I look at my grains and we say 4 or more, and that freaks people out, freaks them out because you've been avoiding rice, you've been avoiding grains, you know, carbs are the devil, and then you're like 4. But let's talk about serving sizes. A serving size can be a half a cup of cooked grain. That's not that much, you guys. And so if you did a full cup of brown rice and then just buried it in tons of yummy roasted vegetables and put some pinto beans on top, you just got 2 of your servings of grains right there. Piece of toast, you just got another one. And so it's really not that hard to do, but adding some variety can make it easier to do. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop my farro because that went off. And I just kind of want you to see what this looks like. And so again, we get to drain the farro because this is a grain that it's not like rice. It's not gonna get fluffy from it. We want it to cook like pasta. So I want you to see what some cooked farro looks like. So I'm going to drain this really quickly. This is all my secret side. Oh wait, where am I gonna drain this? I know. Gonna drain here. I have my computer monitor so I can see your questions, and there are occasions during these classes where I'm like, I'm either going to electrocute myself or destroy something electronic. So far, so good. This is class number 12. We're still alive, you guys. We're still kicking. Woohoo! Okay, any questions while I'm doing this? So someone must have asked about protein. Tell me, how much protein do you recommend? Oh, Reed asked how much protein. So this is what I always tell people. And if anybody here is about to tell you how much, don't listen to them. I love you all, but you don't know how much protein Reed needs. So keep that to yourself. Reed, you can take a look at formulas online. And what you really want to look at are a couple of things: your age, your weight, your gender. It really varies, is my point. If you eat a balanced, plant-based vegan diet where you're eating just the way I told you about on that chart, if you're eating all of those foods, you're practically guaranteed to get all the protein that you need. The highest concentration of protein you're going to get are in legumes. So I'm not one of those people who says, oh, don't worry, just eat all eat all vegan food and you'll get everything you need. That's not entirely true. There is a lot of protein in some foods that you don't really expect it to be in, but that doesn't mean that that's going to give you enough. So someone who is more athletic or bigger or younger might need more protein than somebody who is 55 and and maybe I'm like a walker. I'm not really doing triathlons anymore. So it really varies. But I just say, just in general, that a balanced plant-based diet will probably give you what you need, but really focus on at least 3 of those servings of beans and legumes. And if soy is not a problem for you, meaning you don't have a soy allergy, that's why I always have at least 1 serving of soy, because it's the highest amount of protein when it comes to legumes. I love black beans, I love lentils, even pistachios and quinoa and peanut butter can get that for you. So there are lots of ways to get that in. So I hope that was helpful. All right, so my grains, my farro has been drained. I'm gonna put it back in this pot just to give me a few less dishes to do. I spend probably more time in my kitchen on Sundays after the class cleaning up my hot mess. I spend less time with you and more time cooking. So let me move this camera down so you can see a little bit of what we're about to do now. So this is the recipe from Tracy's book. So we've got our cooked grains, and now I'm going to get my roasted mushrooms. I'm gonna say, I don't know if you guys noticed this. This roasting pan came with the Ninja air fryer. Kind of got lopsided when I used it, so that's weird. Okay, so now what I had done with these, look how brown these got. So I am going to take these mushrooms that have cooked down. Now, I told you that I reduced the grain by 50%, but I just didn't measure anything with the mushrooms and the celery and the chives because I'm like, that's just like, those are like accessories. You can never have too many pairs of shoes or earrings or extra stuff to put in your rice. Okay, so we've got that there, and now I'm gonna add, if I can find it, there we go, my chives that I already chopped and my celery. So she calls for adding for a little bit more oil, but I drizzled some oil on my mushrooms when I was cooking them, which she calls for. So I just don't feel like I need to, so I'm not gonna worry about it. So I'm just gonna stir this up and look at this delicious dish. So that was just kind of like a boring brown farro that suddenly has tons of flavor just from roasted mushrooms and celery and chives. So I think I should try a bite, don't you? Is anybody else? Let's see. Wait, what did someone just ask? Oh, someone's asking about nutso. I don't know anything about nutso. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna eat right out of the pan and see what I think of this. Oh my God, you guys. This is delicious. You have to make this. So much flavor. Okay, I highly recommend it. Okay, any other no, so far no other questions. Okay, our risotto has been on coming down from a natural release for 6 minutes. I'm gonna let it go probably 10 or 15. So let's get this bulgur going. Actually, before we get that going, I'm gonna show you some of the other grains that I like. Okay, so we have farro, couscous. Couscous, you probably have had at Middle Eastern restaurants. I love couscous. My husband, Dave, loves couscous, but you know which one he likes? He likes the Israeli couscous. It's big, it's round, it's plump, it's a lot more like pasta. And I always tease him, I'm like, of course you like that, because he can eat like 2 bowls of it and never know it. And I'm like, this couscous is a bit more like a whole grain. So I love this. This is just, you notice how I do my bag. So I try to buy, this is from Natural Grocers. So Natural Grocers, they have a section that they call bulk, but really it's already packaged, but it's theirs. They bought it in bulk and then they package it. So they put them in really big bags and the cost is really great. So I'll just, once I open the bag, I will transfer whatever's left into a jar, and then I just cut the label off so I don't forget what I have in there, because some grains start to look alike. And then I just keep the lid on with the label so that, you know, it'll still stay airtight, and that's how I know what I have. So couscous, I love to have with, like if I'm doing sort of like a Middle Eastern style, or I have a, some of you guys have, I think, have made my Mediterranean beans and greens recipe that's like white beans and tomatoes and arugula, and I love serving it over cooked couscous. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? What's going on? Oh, thank you for finding the plant plate, Jennifer. That's awesome. Okay, I'm not sure quite what's going on. Barley oat blueberry muffins today, Lisa. That's amazing. In my new book, I'm gonna have a bulgur banana kind of muffiny thing that's gonna be super yummy. Okay, let's look at let's look at some rice. You guys know rice, but I always have all kinds of rice. I always have some brown rice on hand. I always have some short white rice, or I actually, on this jar, I literally wrote, it's short green white rice or it's sushi rice. I don't know. So I didn't write it down when I stored it. But the good news is that in my, if I use a pressure cooker, the cooking time is the same, usually 4 to 6 minutes. So I decided I'll just cook it one day, and then that's gonna help me decide what am I gonna do with it. If it's all sticky, I'm gonna be like, cool, I'm making sushi, and I'll pull out some nori sheets and I'll make that. And if it's just like fluffy rice, I'll be like, cool, I'll have it with some tofu. And then we have wild rice. This is from Rancho Gordo. I love this. This is the longest cooking rice. And so if you were, let's just talk pressure cooking for a minute. If you were pressure cooking white rice, you're usually doing it from 4 to 6 minutes on high pressure. You do not have to make adjustments based on elevation for anything other than beans. So this time is fine, whether you're in Colorado or whether you're in LA. So white rices are usually 4 to 6. Arborio rice is 7, and that's a white rice that we're cooking right now. And brown rice is usually 22 minutes. And a wild rice can be as much as 25 to 30 minutes. And so it's a very, very hearty rice. But what's great about wild rice is that this is one that you can use too much water. It's fine, because you can rinse it when you're done. It doesn't have, if you've had wild rice, you know how chewy it is, right? Kind of like how chewy this farro is. So you don't have to worry about it being fluffy and absorbing all the liquid. You can just rinse it out. You just want it to be done. You don't want al dente rice. You want done rice, okay? But anyway, it's a really fun way to add some texture. So I love wild rice. And then I am looking at your questions about, okay, wait. Are you adding the marinara sauce to the farro dish? No, the marinara is in my risotto. So it's a red risotto. And I put the marinara in with the liquid to cook the risotto. So it'll be nice and sticky and kind of pasta-like. And then I'm just gonna add some nutritional yeast, and what else am I gonna add? Lemon juice when it's done. Thanks for telling us that, Margaret, about the wild rice being a grass and has a lot of protein. I don't know about the protein content. Oh, Vicky. Great question. She says that she has used her rice cooker, but would love to use her Instant Pot more for rice. Is it better? And I'm going to say yes. And here's the #1 problem, in my humble opinion, that people have when they make rice in their Instant Pot or Melfi or whatever cooker. They actually use the button that says rice. But the thing is, that's set as a rice cooker button. And so it's usually trying to cook rice for 4 to 6 minutes, like a white rice. So what I tell people is ignore all of the rice. I don't actually use any button on any of my multi-cookers except saute, pressure cook, and yogurt, because I just trust the pressure cooking process. So try a grain recipe like rice in the Instant Pot or multi-cooker, whatever you have, and use the pressure cooking. So use either, like do high pressure for a certain number of minutes. Don't use the rice cooker, and I think that you'll be impressed with the result. Okay, so let's not get into giving nutritional advice to folks about what's good for their guts or things like that. Sorry, I just feel like there's lots of information out there, and no way is necessarily the right way. So I'd kind of like to keep this away from too much nutrition advice. Thank you for understanding. Nutritional yeast is, we talk about nutritional yeast every week. I wish you could smell it, smell-o-vision. So this is what it looks like. It's not yeast, it's not gluten. It is a brewer's yeast, and it's fortified. The reason lots of people who are plant-based or vegan started using this was because it's been fortified, can be fortified with B12, one vitamin we can't get from food. And so, but the bonus is it's super cheesy. It thickens up and makes amazing vegan sauces. And so you have to really look at the label. Like if you go into a grocery store in the bulk section and you see nutritional yeast, if that label doesn't say that it's been fortified with B12, you're just going to get something really yummy for your vegan cooking, but it's not going to give you the vitamins necessarily that you're looking for. But as I say every week, I follow the nutrition guidance of Jenny Messina and Jack Norris, who wrote the book Vegan for Life, which, by the way, their revised edition just came out, and it's brilliant as ever. And they always remind us that B12, while you can get it in nutritional yeast, you would have to eat a lot of nutritional yeast to probably get the B12 you need. But that's between you and your healthcare provider when you get your blood work done to find out how much B12 you need. So I don't use this I don't use it for vitamins. I use it because it tastes great. And I do not know the answer. Someone asked, is it a carb for a diabetic? I have absolutely no idea. No one else answered that question. I'm sorry, but I would really prefer that you find that out online. So let's see. How long do you cook rice in the Instant Pot? It depends on, I've just rattled off a few times, but I'll do it again. It depends on which one. If it's white rice, it can be 4 to 6 minutes. If it is brown rice, 22 minutes. And wild rice can be anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so your farro recipe from the newsletter had marinara. Well, then I obviously made a mistake. In the newsletter, I offered 3 different lists of ingredients. The farro is Tracy's recipe, and it's done. It's farro, and it is mushrooms, and it's chives, and it's celery. And the red risotto we have cooked so far with vegetable broth, arborio rice, and marinara sauce. And as soon as it comes down from pressure, I'm going to add some nutritional yeast and lemon juice. So let me go over a few more grains before we start to make this tabbouleh. So then we also have quinoa, which is not a grain, it's a seed, but lots of us treat it like it is a grain. And this is a tricolor one. This one takes a little bit longer. When it's a white quinoa, I cook mine 1 cup to 1.5 cups liquid in the Instant Pot. And I cook it for 1 minute. And I know that there are other cookbook authors who say to do it for 5 minutes. No one is ever right. Find what works for you. So I like 1, and it works fine for me. When I use the tricolor, I have a harder red quinoa in here as well. Then I will cook it for 3 minutes. If you were doing it on the stovetop, you would bring your water and your quinoa to a boil together. And then usually it cooks anywhere from 10 to 18, and in this case, maybe 20 minutes. And once the liquid is gone and it's tender, move it off the heat, leave the lid on it for 5 minutes or so, and then fluff it, and it's ready. Okay, so a couple more. I love millet. I think we used millet. Didn't we use millet early on in one of the cooking classes? Okay, good. Thank you, Lisa. I thought we did. That's why I didn't want to repeat it and be redundant. But I will tell you that millet is probably one of my favorite grains right now. I am obsessed with millet. It is, it's whole grain. I actually think it's gluten-free. Hey, whoever asked about gluten-free, I think millet's gluten-free. I'm not sure. If somebody knows, let us know. And so what I like to do is toast it first. So if I were making it in a saucepan like I did with the farro, what I would do is put this on a high heat. I would put this dry millet into the pot on high heat with nothing else. And then with a wooden spoon, I would just keep stirring it and stirring it and stirring it. So it doesn't get to the point where it's almost rancid or too oily or even burns, but I just keep stirring it and stirring it until you start to hear it pop and it becomes really aromatic. And Lisa is nodding her head. She knows this is the deal. And it's just the smell, the aroma. And then I immediately put water in, and it sounds really scary. And then if you're doing it in the Instant Pot, it's about 10 minutes on high pressure. If you're doing it on the stovetop, it's going to be like closer to 25 minutes. But just adding that toasting step makes it aromatic, gives it that umami pop. So I'm obsessed with millet and almost always have millet ready. And I'll make like a millet pilaf where I'll toast the millet, reserve it to the side, and then in the same pan, add a little olive oil, and then maybe a mirepoix of onion, carrot, celery, and just kind of get that going, maybe a pinch of salt, add the millet in, then add veggie broth or water. And then when I'm done and I'm fluffing it, I've got my veggies and my grain all together. So millet I love. And then just a few random ones that are always kind of fun to have. I have amaranth, which is it's almost like a grit. I love this for porridges, and I like to add it to soups because it makes the soup thick. Sorghum is a very hearty grain. I think sorghum might be gluten-free, although usually Bob's Red Mill is pretty good about saying if it is. So, oh, it is. It's gluten-free. Yay! And then rolled oats. I cannot have enough rolled oats. I use rolled oats obviously for oatmeal, but I do savory oatmeal. Did any of you guys try my savory oatmeal from last weekend? It came out so great on this end. And I was using so much of it. Okay, so I'm gonna check on my bulgur is looking pretty darn good. So I'm going to taste it just to see. So remember, this has just been soaking in. Oh yeah, awesome. Okay, so to make our, I don't wanna put that, I wanna put this over here. We're gonna take care of the risotto in a minute. I just wanna show you really quickly how to make this tabbouleh. So what you would do is, we've got a bunch of parsley, and you just roll up this parsley and shred it. And then you take these grape tomatoes, whoops, and you have them, and then you take lemon juice and you just squeeze it over it. And that gives you this tabbouleh that you're probably used to. When you go to a restaurant and you get tabbouleh, you'll have, it almost looks like everything's chopped really finely. So the parsley is really, really finely chopped. And so it's, you could do it like a dip, but it's amazing. Like if you do like a whole grain tortilla and smear some hummus on top and then just sprinkle the tabbouleh on it, it's absolutely amazing. And if you don't want to do double grains, but if you did that, there would be 2 of your grains. Remember I told you I wanted you to try for 4 a day. There's 2 right there, whole grain or pita, whole grain tortilla or pita, plus the tabbouleh, plus the hummus. There's your bean. Now you've got parsley and you've got grape tomatoes. And then suddenly you have like all of your food groups there. And then, ooh, what if we did like a cashew sauce over it? Then we just added a nut, see 4 of the vegan food groups. So it's a super easy way to do that. But I want to show you the risotto. And then I want to answer your questions because we're getting to 2 minutes. Oh, okay. And then I'm also going to remind you, as you know, and you guys have been really, really wonderful about this, that I don't know if I can find it actually. Oh, there it is. I have been accepting tips from you so I can continue to pay my Zoom fee, and I appreciate you. So I'm just going to drop the tip link. And now let's see, pressure is down because you can't open your multi-cooker lid if pressure is still high. So pressure's down. Oh, risotto is my favorite thing in the world. I'm sorry, it is like ridiculous. I'm going to bring it over so you can see it. So this arborio rice, you're going to see what it looks like when you don't stir your tomatoes over the, I probably need a second one of these. So see how that is? The tomatoes stayed on top. The risotto is perfectly done. I'm going to put a spoon in there so you can see. I'm actually try to do this. So look, because I don't want to do smoke and mirrors. It's like done, y'all. And so normally risotto, you remember in the day when you had to stand there and stir and stir and stir on your stovetop? This is fluffy, this is done, but it's not quite done because now it's time for the very special ingredients. And that is nutritional yeast. This is going to stand in for our butter. So risotto usually has some kind of butter. Sometimes people use cream. But what I love is when I do a combination of nutritional yeast with a fresh lemon, that's how I make my mac and cheese. I'll just make pasta, a whole grain pasta, drain it, and then I will sprinkle nutritional yeast on it. And I will put some fresh lemon juice over it, over a low heat, and stir it together. It's done. It's delicious. Sometimes I'll add some peas, maybe some corn, maybe some beans. I love to add arugula to my mac and cheese, which is not mac and it's not, well, it is mac, but it's not cheese. It's just my whole grain pasta, nutritional yeast, lemon juice, and some fresh arugula. You stir it in, it wilts immediately. It's just a simple way to add some flavor. So I'm not even going to measure this because it's nutritional yeast, and as far as I'm concerned, the more the better. So here we go. Probably a quarter cup, let's just say. Okay, then I'm going to add some lemon juice, and I'll let you see what I'm doing because I know it's annoying when you can't, but I don't exactly have the best kitchen, as you know, for doing this. So I'm going to take my juicer, and really I just do this to keep the seeds from going into it. And I'm going to do this, and because I love it so, I'm going to use both halves. And then also, I don't know if you've noticed, I've added no salt. It's not because I don't eat salt, of course I do, but it's because I used veggie broth, a low sodium veggie broth bouillon powder. I used some homemade marinara, which by the way, I also was like minimal salt. Like I think I put a pinch in with the cherry tomatoes. And so that's why I always say, don't over salt things until you know what you're putting together. So I want you to see how this starts to look as I stir it together. So I've got my nooch, I've got my lemon juice, and you just have this creamy, creamy red risotto. So like I said, risotto's not red, but I don't really believe in rules. I think they're silliness, and I needed a new recipe for my last cookbook. So I just decided to add marinara because to me, risotto is like pasta, right? So let me plate this really quickly. And let's do this so you can see the color pop. the risotto, nice and creamy, perfectly done. Mm, it's freaking delicious. I'm so glad I did a whole lemon. Is that obnoxious when I say I think it's delicious? I'm sorry, I can't lie. I think it's delicious. Okay, so let me stop. We have gone through 3 of these. What question? How long did I cook the risotto? So I did it in a multi-cooker for pressure cooking. I do arborio rice for 7 minutes, high pressure, natural release. There are a couple of reasons. Well, first off, it's a grain, and you guys know that. Risotto actually can get a little foamy. And so I have a recipe. I don't know if you guys have tried it before. It's in my book, Vegan Pressure Cooking. And it's an Indian, it's pudding. It's supposed to be sort of like rice pudding, but I use arborio rice because it's a way to get that creaminess that you would normally get from cream. And I make it with plant-based milk. And it's a pretty big batch. And I've had times where when the pressure is releasing, like it comes like really thick and starchy through the vent. So I highly recommend high pressure, natural release. And oh, thank you, Lisa. Lisa says that risotto can be red. Your Italian grandmother made only red risotto with tomato paste. Say, oh, yay. And I didn't even know that. That is awesome to know. Okay. Lynn asked about the tabbouleh. Yeah, mint is amazing in that too. Oh, Kim, did you make the tabbouleh from the book? And let's see, I wish you guys had smell-o-vision too. Yeah, I mean, if you just start with cooked bulgur and then, add your parsley, but some people don't like parsley, by the way. And I think there are people who don't like parsley in the way that there are some people who don't like cilantro. And I know it's this whole taste bud thing. I'm cuckoo for cilantro. So I have actually made tabbouleh with cilantro instead of parsley. But the big difference is I finished all my cilantro today. So with tabbouleh, the reason if you can tolerate parsley is there's more density to it. And there's a lot of bite to it. And tabbouleh is you're supposed to really feel the textures. So the bulgur is this hearty grain, and then you've got this almost crispiness and a hard bite with the parsley. So when you have those combinations together, that kind of makes the complete bite with the tabbouleh. But any recipe, really, you should just do whatever feels good to you. And so if you prefer cilantro, I'll use cilantro. I'm gonna have a little bit different of a texture from it, but I love the flavor. But Dave doesn't love cilantro. So when I'm doing that, that's my tabbouleh because he's not gonna want it. Okay, so someone asked if I roasted the Roma tomatoes first. I did not for the sauce that I made today because I pressure cooked my marinara sauce. And again, I just kind of riffed on it. I had some cherry tomatoes that I was looking at the bowl because I keep them out because I kind of snack on them during the week. And I was like, oh my God, these are kind of soft. I need to use these. So I just dumped them in the pot and I just threw some water in and I threw some garlic in and I think a pinch of salt. And then like I said, when I was done, I was like, well, I have a little extra marinade of some red wine vinegar, which is perfect for Italian style cooking, right? So what other questions do you guys have about grains? Here are the things I wanted to make sure that you knew, and I'll have this information on the website, is that you want to try to use a heavy saucepan, which you guys saw, that has a tight lid if you're cooking on your stovetop, because you really don't want anything to escape because important cooking is going on. You should try to be more patient than I am. And when it's a grain that requires that the lid stay on, leave it alone. Don't do what I do. Leave it alone. Let it do its cooking. If you're not sure, rinse the grains, okay? Like I said, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'll tell you when I do is when I buy grains from the bulk bin and I've scooped in and I've gotten it, because I've seen those kids running around there with their fingers up their noses and then they're over by the grains and all by the bulk stuff. So I definitely rinse when that happens. Some things that are in containers, I don't worry about, but like I said, today when I opened up the Farro, there was just so much dust. I was like, I think I'll rinse that. But if you're not sure, just rinse it. It doesn't hurt anything. And so the grain to water ratio usually is anywhere from a cup to 2.5 cups. And that can vary, and it can definitely vary by cooking method. And so as I mentioned, if you were doing arborio rice without a marinara, you would do a cup to 4 cups liquid if you were making a risotto. Okay, and then what you want to do is sometimes you're boiling your water first and adding the grain, like I did with the farro. Sometimes you're putting the water and the grain together and you are bringing it to a boil together. So it's getting the benefit of that cooking process. Then covering the lid, and then you want to reduce it enough where it's still simmering with a real gentle boil and it can do its cooking. Um, and then when you're doing things like a quinoa or a millet, or a rice, you might want to, after you remove it from the heat, just leave it alone before you fluff it. The cool thing about using a pressure cooker or an Instant Pot is that natural release is the leaving it alone. And so when you remove the lid, you just use a fork and fluff it up and it's ready to roll. As I mentioned, I like to use my grains, cooked grains, no longer than 5 days. I usually try to eat them in 3 to 5, although I have a lot of grains apparently now for Dave and I this week. So we're good in that area. Now I just have to figure out what beans I'm going to have with it. And so let's see what questions have come up. Which website address? Do you mean mine? I'm going to drop a bunch of links right now, actually. So I'm going to drop links for today's t-shirt by the Compassionate Closet, links for Tracy's book, my books. Oh, I gave you the vegan air fryer. I meant to give you the link to my Fast and Easy Vegan. Actually, that is the link to Fast and Easy Vegan, you guys. And then, yeah, my website, and I just dropped it for the classes. So there are all the links. I'm getting better about almost doing an hour-long class. Do you have any, any ideas for kid-friendly items for grains? My kids do not like mushrooms, so I struggle. That is a good question. So if I were gonna think about grains for kids, I would probably try to do things like maybe ease them into it a little bit, like maybe using some of the whole grain pastas or using some whole grain tortillas for some fun wraps. I actually think couscous could be really fun for the kids. It's easy to digest. It can go really well with, oh, that just made me think. Can you imagine like couscous tots or something? I was just thinking, should we do couscous tots? Doesn't that sound good? Like tater tots, only with couscous? Speaking of that, actually, hey, I just have an idea for you. So I have a recipe for vegan mac and cheese, and then I roll it up and I air fry it. And it makes me think, if you took like a whole grain, like a brown rice or some millet or some quinoa, and combined it with some chopped veggies that you've sauteed, and then maybe get a little flaxseed in there, ground flaxseed to hold it together. But then if you like air fried it or baked it as little nuggets and had a fun dipping sauce, that might be something they're really into. And then they're getting seeds from the ground flaxseed. They're getting a grain from the millet or the quinoa or the brown rice, and they're getting some vegetables. But whenever you get to dip something in sauce, I mean, who doesn't want that? I'm a 54-year-old kid. I am all for that. Like falafel, exactly. Oh, falafel is actually a really good idea, although falafel is actually chickpeas or fava beans. But okay, so if there are no other questions, I want to thank you once again for joining me. Oh, let me tell you what's coming up next week. Oh, okay. So those of you who got my newsletter, I want to say that I appreciate you. I wasn't sure if I was going to get nasty emails this week because I was very forthright in my newsletter in the same way that I was during last week's class, which is to say that it's kind of hard and heavy right now in the world, and kind of hard to go from protests and demands for justice and then teach a cooking class. And so I've done the best I can to do my life as a vegan educator, but I, as a white woman, am morally obligated to do better in the world, and to learn and to not rely on the Black community, on Black people, and on people of color to do my hard work. And I have been on Instagram and on Facebook inviting people to join me because I cannot tolerate this idea of all lives matter. No lives will matter until Black lives matter. And so it was very important for me to share that last week, to share that in my newsletter, and to let you know that as I continue on as a vegan for justice, I'm a vegan, I'm for justice for all, and I'm going to continue to make that a part of my work. And that was why I reached out to Tracy this week to see if we could feature one of her recipes, because if I have a platform, I want to make sure that you know about other people who are doing important work and often very unsung. Next week, my class is on vegan, eggs, and dairy with an emphasis on baking, because that's my new cookbook coming out. And there's an extraordinary woman here in Colorado Springs. Her name is Patrice, and she is the founder of Swegan Vegan Bakery. She makes the most incredible vegan sweets and baked goods ever, and she's going to be a guest on this class next week, and she's going to talk about her delicious baked goods, and she is a Black woman in my community who doesn't get enough attention. And so I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to continue to do that each week so that we can all try to think about what we are doing to amplify voices in our community and trying to bring justice for all. So I want to thank you for sticking with me and for understanding that I can't hide my heart or my ethics, and you are all wonderful. So next week is vegan eggs and dairy. The week after, I believe, is the week I'm bringing Dave back to class, and we're calling it the meaty vegan. And we're going to show you how to make your own homemade vegan meat, which is seitan. So for those of you who are gluten-free, it is gluten-full. I'm so sorry, I've never found a gluten-free seitan that has worked for me, but we will use some other vegan meats that are gluten-free. So that's coming up too. And then I don't know what the class after that is going to be, but I'm going to keep doing these classes every Sunday until we are all back to whatever semblance of life looks like for us. So thank you once again for joining me. I will have, now that I'm almost done with my book, I think by Tuesday, I'll have this video up for you guys, unless I get too distracted today and I just don't do it. And as always, I will drop, you guys are very cute, and then people start to secretly sending me messages to provide tips if you want to. And I will see you next week. The newsletter, I sent it to you. Sign up for the newsletter because I will send you a list of ingredients. We'll make some vegan eggs together next week, and maybe we'll make some vegan dairy too. So I'm going to do what I always do. I like to say goodbye to you. And I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to try something. I don't usually allow people to talk, and you guys, it's not you. It's because I've been on meetings before where we've been Zoom bombed. And so some really nasty things happened. So I'm going to trust you all right now, but I think I'm going to try something. I'm going to do unmute all. And I'm wondering, once I do that, if you want to unmute, I'd just love to hear your voices if you want to say goodbye. So let me hit unmute all. And if you want to say goodbye, would love to wave and say goodbye to you.
Oh, thanks, JL.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
JL.
Bye.
See you next week.
Yeah, you probably have to unmute yourself too. Hey, Lynn. And there's
Good to see you.
Donna.
Bye.
You guys, it's always so great to see you. I appreciate you. I'm just kind of going through right now looking at all your faces. So for those of you on YouTube, forgive me, but I love to see my people. Okay, you guys, it's been great.
Thank you. Bye. See you next week.
Thank you.
Great job.
Be safe out there, and justice, everybody. Justice.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.